difficulties with our MyHeritage Facebook Live. It looks like now it's working. I think that we can now be seen. If you're there in the audience watching, please do let us know if now you're able to see us properly. I'm here with Melissa Barker. We are continuing our Facebook Live, dragging genealogy information out of your family members. I see people are writing that it works, so that's a good sign, Melissa. So sorry about our technical difficulties. Unfortunately, some things are out of our control, so I really apologize to everyone in the audience. Doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does. So thank you everyone for staying with us. Welcome back. We'll wait till everyone just rejoins a couple minutes. I hope we didn't lose anyone still there. So we really apologize. Every once in a while, we do have some technical difficulties, but not often, and hopefully not again for the remainder of today's show. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a short recap. We have a fantastic guest with us today. We have Melissa Barker, the archive lady, and a great friend of MyHeritage who's here joining us again, talking about dragging genealogy information out of your family members. It's our pleasure to have her with us today. We were already in the middle of today's session. We had a few technical difficulties, and we are now continuing today's session. So thank you everyone for staying with us. For anyone who came in the middle, just to let you all know, we have a draw today for a MyHeritage Complete Plan, the best plan we have to offer at MyHeritage. To enter, leave a question for Melissa, or let us know how you're making sure to stay in touch with your family members this holiday season. I know the holidays are going to look a little bit different for many this year. So let us know how you're making them special for your family and how you're staying in touch. We'd love to hear about that. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for coming back to the second streaming. And Melissa, would you like to share your screen? And
Yes, I can tell you all I see is a black screen on my end, but we're going to try this. Let me know if you can see that. Oops.
Okay.
Can you see that?
I can see it, and
I'm going to take us to where I was, if that's okay.
Fantastic. And for anyone who missed the first session today, you can always go back to the MyHeritage Facebook page under the video section and watch the first half at a later time. A lot of fantastic tips and advice about getting information out of family members. I know a lot of stuff that I'm going to try and implement with my family these holidays. So let me bring in your slides now. And thank you everyone for staying with us again. And if please let us know that you can see it properly. We'd love to hear that. So let's see.
Now this is where I remember that I left off. So you tell me if this is good.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right, we're talking about famous or not so famous artisans in our ancestry. And so we've talked about different things like quilts, and we've talked about handmade items. Maybe, your family members or ancestors were not necessarily known for what they made, but they made a lot of things just for their families, and that may have been clothing. Maybe your family members remember your parents or grandparents making clothing for them. And so that's why it's important that we document every aspect of our family and ancestors' lives. And so maybe you could use ordinary objects to get your ancestors or your family members to talk. I'm sharing this because this was actually kind of a funny story. Around here, we had these electric telephone glass insulators, and some of you may have seen them when you were growing up. They were replaced. They went on the electric poles many, many years ago. Well, when I started as an archivist, I had some of these donated to the archives, and I personally had never seen them before. And so I thought they were just phenomenal. They were different colors, and I just thought they were really, really neat. Well, we had a show and tell at our local historical society meeting one time, and I brought them thinking that I had discovered something. And many of the old timers that were with our historical society told me, said, "Oh, so you used to be able to find those just laying on the road." So I had not discovered anything. So, but I just wanted to show you could use ordinary objects to jog your family members' memories. Maybe use something from the past, something that is a blast from the past. These are some school supplies that we have on display in our archives. And so maybe showing them some old crayons or an old ruler with an advertisement on it will jog your family members' memories about not only your ancestors and what they may have done in their lives, but maybe it'll jog memories of what they did as children. Maybe it will help them to remember some of their stories from school. And so, not only are we wanting to document our ancestors' lives, but we want to document our today family members that are still living and still with us. And so, trying to get that information from them is also a great thing. So another thing we can use is historical events, whether those are local, national, or world events. This is something that we've all experienced. Depending on what generation you have lived through events, whether those were happy events, sad events. Just a couple of days ago, we commemorated the bombing of Pearl Harbor here in the United States. And so those kinds of things maybe you can use to get your family members talking about what they remember. Um, Many of us can ask many of our family members, where were you when John F. Kennedy, the United States president, was assassinated? They could probably tell you where they were, what they were doing, and how they felt about it. So this is the type of information that is fantastic to record from your family members to put with their information in your family genealogy. Maybe ask some of your grandparents, what was it like going through the Depression? Because they did. They went through the Depression. I can remember asking my husband's grandmother about the Depression. Now, they lived right here where I live, and it was rural, and they lived on a farm. And I got an interesting comment from her, one that I did not expect. She told me that she said that they really did not know that they were going through the depression, that there was even a depression because they lived on a farm. They grew or they raised anything and everything that they needed for food, for clothing, and things like that. She says the only thing that they had to purchase was sugar or coffee. And so she said, we did very well. But then I talked to my other family members who lived in the city, and their stories are completely different. So don't just talk to one family member, talk to as many as you can because they have different experiences with the same event. Here is some examples of some stuff from the Great Depression. I have my father's World War II ration books. And so things like that and photographs. Maybe you have photographs from that time that can help you to understand what your family members went through, what their experiences were, and talking to your family members like your parents, grandparents, about what it was like to go through that time. Local events. There were things that happened locally that only those who were living in the area would remember. And so maybe they remember a flood that happened, a tragic flood that happened in the community, and what came of that. They lived through it. So they remember, I couldn't go to school because it was flooded and we couldn't get there. The stores were closed because it had flooded the stores. So that is something. Maybe you live in an area where there's hurricanes or tornadoes, things like that. Now, those are not pleasant things or events to happen, but they have generated memories. And that's what you're trying to get to, are the memories and the stories that your families have. I just shared this thing on the right there. This is from the 1890s, actually. Now, I know we don't have any family members that are living today that we remember from 1890s. But if you have something like this, maybe you show it to them, and then they'll remember something about a train that was in their community. You never, never know when you show your family members a photograph, a newspaper clipping, an artifact, what they're going to remember or what's going to click in their minds to tell a story. So, family traditions, I told you we were going to talk about those. Get your family members talking about family traditions and what they meant to your family. We all have family traditions. We may not remember them all because they haven't been continued from generation to generation, but the ones that we do have, we really need to document and talk to our family members. Start out by asking your family members about the tradition. Ask them, what kind of traditions do we have? Or during a family get together, such as Christmas or Thanksgiving, say, why do we always do this at Christmas? One of the things that I always tell genealogists to use that really will get families talking sometimes is the Christmas tradition. My husband and I both have different traditions. His family always celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve. My family always celebrated Christmas on Christmas morning. And so we've talked about that and those traditions and how that worked for our families. So that could be a good starting point. One of the things you might want to do is find out who started the tradition. Now, that might be difficult because the tradition may go back pretty far, but maybe talk about, why did we start doing things this way? Why do we always have this meal at Christmas time? And try to talk to your family members about it. Try to figure out where these traditions originated. Maybe it's because you're part of an ethnic group, and that is why you do a particular tradition. Talk about why or why not are they observed today. Maybe there was a family member that decided, I don't want to do that anymore, and you just stopped doing it. Years ago, I was with my father. We were in Ohio where he grew up. He was taking us through the town where he grew up, telling us where he went to school, showing us where he went to school, where he used to live. And we passed his grandmother's old house. And he said, my grandmother used to live there. And he says, and that's where all the family reunions would take place. And I sat up in the car and I said, family reunions? What family reunions? I've never been to a family reunion. And he said, oh, he says, they don't have them anymore. He says, once my grandmother died, they stopped having them. If he hadn't been driving us through that town and telling us all these wonderful things, I never would have known that there were family reunions. So things like that can jog your memory. One of the things I also encourage genealogists to do when you're with your family members, and maybe you already do this, play some games with them. And play some games that might get you to get some more information out of them. One of the games that I suggest is the Newlywed Game. Many of us may remember the Newlywed Game, and we may not. Maybe you're not old enough, but it was a fantastic game. I used this game at my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And so what I did is I sat each couple down and I made up 10 questions that they would answer as a couple. Now, made those questions up because I wanted to find out some information about each person. And so, if you know anything about the Newlywed Game, you ask the question, and then each of the persons in the couple would answer the question, and then if their answer matches, they get a point. If they don't, usually they'll get into an argument sometimes about, hey, you don't even know me. But I used the questions because then after the game was over, I collected all of the answers and I got some tidbits of information about each and every couple. So play a game, something like that. So how are we going to record all this information? We've been with our family members. Maybe we did it virtually. Maybe we were able to get together. And you've gotten them talking and they're telling story after story. So how are we going to record this information? We need to write it down. Now, if you're like me, I like to write things down with pen and paper. When you're at the event where you're talking to your family members, just jot down some notes of what they're saying, of what you're hearing. Believe me, when you're doing this, write down as much as you possibly can. No piece of information, I think, is too small. So write it all down. You never know what small piece of information is going to lead you to a bigger story or to finding records that you didn't have. Maybe record it. Like I said, this year there's probably going to be a lot of virtual family gatherings. Well, if you're doing Zoom or if you're doing FaceTime, hit the record button. Now, I would advise you, please let your family members know that you're going to record your get together. Just letting them know so that they're very well aware of it. So if they don't want to be on the recording, they don't have to be, but record it. And then you've got all that information there, and you can go back and you can listen to it. You can pick out the tidbits of information, and that is fantastic to have your family members on a recording. How much do we like to see those 8mm or DVDs or VHSs with our family members on them? Same thing when we do this virtually and we can record it. Collect today for tomorrow. This is one of my mottos. As genealogists, we should be constantly collecting stuff for tomorrow's history. Now, when I say collect for today for tomorrow, I mean things like photographs. I mean things like letters, if you're still writing letters. Maybe you attended a funeral for a family member and you got one of the little funeral cards. Collect that for your information, for your genealogy information. There's nothing that's too insignificant that you shouldn't collect for your day-to-day genealogy. Maybe it's a marriage announcement, marriage invitation. Maybe it's a birth announcement that your cousin sent you. Things like that are things that we wish we had from our ancestors. And so collect those things. Archive it just like you would if you'd found an old document in an archive. And that way you have that information, those documents for tomorrow. Take photographs of your family events. Now be sure to download them to your computer. If you're using your phone, get them off your phone before something happens to your phone. Identify them. As soon as that event is over, sit down and do this because you may forget. Identify who's in the photographs and add information in the metadata section to know what the event was, what was it in commemoration of, what did you talk about, who was there, all that information. Collect documents and ephemera such as graduation programs, funeral home cards, wedding invitations, things like that. Put that with your genealogy documents and also put some notations about did you attend the event, some things about what happened at the event. I can tell you that funeral homes have a very, very special place on my heart because that's where I learned about genealogy. I went to a funeral for one of my husband's family members, and there was a lady there who was collecting genealogy information, and I asked her about it, and she told me exactly what she was doing, and that's when I got addicted to genealogy, was actually at a funeral home. So thank you so much. I hope that you got some good tips and tricks to use with your family members. Remember, we sometimes have to be sneaky, but we need to be nice about it. Use what is available to you to get them talking. You can visit my blog, A Genealogist in the Archives, or visit me here on Facebook, The Archive Lady. And please email me with any questions that you have about researching in archives or records preservation. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Esther with any questions. And I hope we got the rest of that presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. So after some technical difficulties, we got back up and running, and I think we were very successful. What an informative presentation and such amazing ideas. I would never have thought of doing, for example, the newlywed game to try and get information out of family members, but what fantastic, fantastic ideas. And I know that a lot of our viewers in the audience are going to try and get some takeaways that they'll then use over the holidays, whether it'll be virtual or in person this year. So really, really fantastic ideas. For anyone who missed part of it, I always like to say that all of our Facebook Lives are available on the MyHeritage Facebook page under the video section. Today we had two, it was a two-parter. We stopped in the middle and restarted our Facebook Live, so you'll find half of it in one Facebook Live and half in the second. We'll take just a few questions before we get to our giveaway for today. Judy asks, how many years have you been doing genealogy, and who or what has been your best source of info?
I have been doing genealogy research for 30 years. Unfortunately, many of my family members have already passed away, and so I've not been able to talk to them. My best source of information actually has been my husband's grandmother, and she's also has passed now. And she kind of did it kicking and screaming, actually, because she was one of those that every time I asked her about something, she would say, "Are you still doing that?" She says, "Why do you want to know all this stuff?" But then she would proceed to answer my questions. So she didn't make it easy on me, but I would get some information out of her.
Great. We have a question here from Sandra, and she asks, why are they afraid to share information about our family members? I have one aunt that just doesn't want to know about the past. What makes some family members so hesitant like that?
It could be all kinds of different reasons, and I'm not an expert on that, but I think sometimes maybe their past was not very good to them, maybe, and so they don't want to talk about it. Um, maybe they truly just don't remember very much, and so they don't feel like they have anything to contribute. And so with those kinds of people, I just try to keep on them, not in a bad way, but like I said, I'll use things that aren't genealogy related. If you come at them straight, full force genealogy questions, you're going to not get very much. And so, like I said, if you have a quilt, talk to them about the quilt. If you have a photograph, you use these things that are family related, but it's not genealogy in your face. And so maybe that will help them.
We have a question here from Christy, and she says, I show my mom old pictures and she suddenly remembers things. I record it all, but have not found a good way to go back and index so that I can add a voiceover into movies. Do you have any suggestions?
Oh, me. That is an area where I do not have much expertise as technology. I wish I could answer that question. I tell you someone who you might reach out to. Reach out to Thomas McKenty. He is extremely good at things like that, and that's someone who I would actually go to try to answer that question.
Okay. Let's see. Carla asks, I contacted my husband's cousin to try to get pictures of his ancestor, but he got upset. I called and refused to share the photos. How can I get people like him to share pictures?
That's a difficult one, when you have family members that just don't want to share. All I can say is that give it some time, and maybe things will mellow out, and then maybe he'll be willing to share, but maybe also find other family members that might have a copy of the same photograph. I know that there is supposedly a photograph that my uncle has of my great grandfather, and his isn't necessarily he doesn't want to share it. His is that he doesn't know where it's at, and he lives in Louisiana and I live in Tennessee, and so I'm wishing I had that photograph. And so I've reached out to his children and I've said, if you ever come across this photograph, please let me know. And so sometimes it's a waiting game. Sometimes we just have to be patient and wait. And sometimes, it'll come to us.
There are some more questions, but I'm afraid that's all that we're able to get to today. And so much information, such fantastic ideas for leads, for ways to just approach getting information from family members in different ways. And sometimes that's what it's about, just going at it from a different angle and just seeing what you can get out of it. So really some fantastic ideas. I know that a lot of our audience will be spending the holidays in maybe a different way this year. So these are just great things to concentrate on and try and spend some time virtually with family members that we're unable to see in person. We received so many great comments from everybody out here in the audience about how you'll be keeping your family members close this year. We have Tina who wrote, hello from Long Beach, California. We are planning on a multi-family virtual meeting to do our annual stock gift exchange. That's really a great idea to exchange gifts over a virtual meeting. Fantastic idea. Let's see, we have just so many comments of how people are keeping their family members close. Terry wrote that he'll be having a toast and a drink in his family's honor, in honor of friends and family this year. Just so many great comments here. And the winner of today's My Heritage Complete Plan is Ben Dawson. And Ben wrote us, "Hello from London, Ontario, Canada. Very excited about this webinar as I just started a project conducting family history interviews with my family using Zoom due to the pandemic and not being able to visit relatives. I'm hoping to put some meat on the bones of my family tree." So congratulations, Ben. You can now put a lot more meat on your family tree with that My Heritage Complete Plan. And we'll be in touch with you through private message to claim your prize. So I hope that everyone's able to take some of these ideas and put them into action this year. Really a great opportunity to spend time virtually with our family members and try and learn more about our roots and family history. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Esther. It was a pleasure.
I learned so much, and I'm really excited to put some of these ideas into action. So thank you. And to all of our viewers, we hope that you'll join us at our upcoming Facebook Lives. We posted recently on the MyHeritage blog, blog.myheritage.com, a schedule with all the upcoming Facebook Lives that we have in the month of December. Some really, really excellent ones coming up. In addition, we have an end of the year special, which is a panel discussion reflecting back on 2020 and looking forward to 2021. Great things to come for MyHeritage and for the genealogy world in general. So we hope that you'll join us at that very special Facebook Live session on December 30th. It'll be our end of the year party, and I think a lot of us are looking forward to a really, really great, fantastic, healthy, and happy 2021. So great things in store. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you,
and thank you to
Esther.
all of you. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.